The University College of the University of Maine system, together with the Maine Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Standards, has formed a partnership to make public information more accessible to Maine's employers. This is part 4 of the OSHA record-keeping course. This part has to do with record-keeping forms.
Under 1904.29 of the OSHA record-keeping standard, OSHA requires that you as an employer must complete the forms OSHA 300 and 301 for each recordable case within 7 calendar days of receiving information that a recordable case has occurred. I would ask all of you to please highlight that phrase, receiving information. That does not mean 7 calendar days after the incident. That means 7 calendar days after you have, as the record keeper, received information that an incident has occurred. This time of receiving this information could be the next year or 2 years later. Either way, if you receive information that a case has occurred, you have 7 calendar days to evaluate the situation and to make the determination whether the case is recordable or not, and properly record it on your OSHA 300 form. Now, under 1904.29, you may use an equivalent form to the 300 as long as it is acceptable and has the same information, is as readable and understandable, and uses the same instructions as the OSHA form it replaces.
I have a question. When you say an equivalent form that's acceptable to whom?
To OSHA. To OSHA. Okay. Forms can be kept on a computer or at another location as long as they can be produced when they are needed. Meaning, and I will go into the rules and regulations about when to produce the OSHA 300 or equivalent later on. Before I go into the discussion of the OSHA Form 301, inside your handouts there is a separate form titled OSHA 300 Software Producers and Websites. At the top of this form is a list of OSHA of software companies that you can buy the software to do your OSHA record keeping, including, however, OSHA.gov is a free site where you can download an Excel spreadsheet that is the equivalent of the OSHA Form 300, 300A, and 301. There are other commercially available pieces of software out there, but please be aware that the Maine Department of Labor does not endorse these products or any other OSHA 300 software. This list is provided solely for information. If you do decide to invest in commercially available software, please be aware that of a few items. First off, the software did not witness the incident. In some cases, the OSHA 300 software assumes that the person sitting at the computer terminal is fully aware of OSHA record-keeping rules and assumes that that person, when they add a new case, has evaluated that case to be properly OSHA recordable. That may not necessarily be the situation. Also, some software will add a case to your workers' comp, OSHA workers' comp first report, and automatically put that on your 300 log. And as my coworker has indicated earlier, there may be situations that are OSHA recordable but not workers' comp reportable, and vice versa. So you want to be careful to make sure that that case on the OSHA 300 is indeed an OSHA recordable case. And finally, is the software up to date? I have heard stories over the years of people using the original OSHA Form 300, which was in effect from 2002 through 2003. On January 1st, 2004, OSHA changed the Form 300. The primary change was the switching of columns K and L. In the old days, column K was days of job transfer, a restriction. Column L was days away from work. Starting January 1st, 2004, column K is now days of away from work, and column L is now days of job transfer restriction. And finally, as a precaution, unless you have a computer that will absolutely never fail, do not, every time you make a change to your software, if you add a new case, delete a case, whatever the situation may be, make sure you print out a hard copy. It's quite possible that an OSHA inspector could come to your work site just as your computer broke down. You want to make sure that you always keep a hard copy of your OSHA forms. Now, the OSHA Form 301, which is on this slide, is what you fill out for every OSHA recordable case. I'm not going to go into details as to how to properly fill it out. The form is pretty self-explanatory. However, I do have some good news regarding this 301. The good news is that in the state of Maine, the Maine Workers' Compensation First Report may be used as a substitute for the 301 form. However, if you do decide to use the first report as a substitute, two boxes must be filled out. One is in the upper right-hand corner, box 1A, the OSHA 300 case number. That number must match the case number on your OSHA Form 300. And also, box 54, was the employee treated at an emergency room? That box must be completed. Everything else you've already completed, and it can be used as a substitute for the 301. For the next few slides, I am going to do an example of how to properly fill out an OSHA Form 300. At the top of this first slide, you will see in the upper left-hand corner that this was revised January 1st, 2004. Please make sure that the OSHA Form 300 that you're using is the latest edition, which was published January 1st, 2004. You will also notice on this slide that I have added a new case to an Andrea Pirio, a welder. On this slide, you will see that Mr. Pirio was injured November 10th. You will see circled that this employee, Mr. Pirio, was injured on the shop floor under column E. In the next slide, under column F, you as an employer are required to describe in detail what the specific incident occurred. If you'll notice, I have used more than one line. As an employer, I want you to be aware of that you are required to describe in detail what actually occurred in column F, the specific injury and what happened to cause the injury. Avoid generalities. Avoid saying things like hurt back or knee or whatever. Use the information from questions 15 through 17 on your OSHA 301 or boxes 51 and 52 from your Workers' Compensation First Report. It is very important. Please don't hesitate to use more than one line for column F. I have heard stories of employers being actually fined for failing to describe in detail what the incident was in column F. On this next slide, you will see a large arrow pointed next to classify the case. And you'll see also under classify the case, check only one box for each case, which is the most serious outcome for this case. For Mr. Pirio's injury, it was a case involving 1 or more days away from work beyond the day of the injury. Therefore, one and only one check mark in column H. As it turned out, Mr. Pirio's injury resulted in 17 days away and no days restricted. So you would put the number 17 in column K, and you would put the number 0 in column L. Since Mr. Pirio suffered a burn to his left hand, a burn is considered an instantaneous type of incident. Therefore, this is an injury. you will see a check mark in column M1.